Hello everybody, this is Shabbir. I am the geography optional teacher at Vajiram and Ravi, and we are dealing with some questions to help you understand how the 2018 geography optional paper could have been better managed and addressed and written on. We have already discussed questions which were a bit more regular and you could have done well with good innovations. Questions which were lengthy, they demanded a lot of writing, but the marks allocated were not befitting the content. And we discussed in the last video how some of the questions required a bit in-depth understanding. To tell you that do not always go by the words that catch attention, but look into what those words mean. In this video, I'm discussing a category of questions that require you to give examples from your contemporary experience or reading, give examples from current affairs. So they are more applied type of questions, if that's the word I can use, where you'll have to substantiate with examples which can help you take a stand whether you agree or don't agree on what the statement demands. So I will call this as those applied type. Question number 3, B. Geomorphological changes are largely responsible for environmental hazards in Himalayan region. Comment with relevant examples. It talks about why geomorphological changes are largely responsible for the hazards of the Himalayan regions. And we have to comment on this, whether you agree or disagree on this, comment on this, and we have to give examples. So these examples is what I was trying to stress on. Now, when I use the word geomorphological changes, we must understand this is not only about tectonics. That probably all of us know. We're referring to, when I say hazards, what am I referring to? I'm referring to earthquakes as an issue, landslides as an issue. We have had flash floods as problems, and we also have problems related to forest fires. If you talk about these problems that are frequent in Himalayas, now the question is asking, how are these related to the geomorphological changes? Most of us probably won't even discuss the flash floods and forest fires. And while discussing earthquakes and landslides, we tend to focus more on, we might focus more on the tectonic aspects, where the Himalayan region is an earthquake prone zone, okay, and maybe focus on sedimentary soil, sedimentary unconsolidated accumulations that make the region prone to landslides. So when you say geomorphological aspects, you also should be talking about the role of exogenetic agents of denudation, the role of glaciers, the role of rivers, the role of erosion, deposition by these agencies. You must also refer to the changes as a consequence of how climate change can impact. So geomorphological consequences are linked to climatic aspects also. You are not supposed to leave that. And in the answer, please do not say and agree that yes, all the problems are because of geomorphological changes, because the question asks comment. So you can actually say that the Himalayan hazards and the disasters we have, yes, the geomorphological aspects make the Himalayan region more susceptible to problems, but a lot of problems we have because of human aspects. The way we encroach into the river basins, the way we have been modifying the slopes, the way we have had uncontrolled expansion of settlements there, the way we have caused global warming. So the answer will be of two parts. The first part, explain, yes, agree. The second part, bring in the anthropogenic aspects also. And examples, please quote Kashmir floods, quote Uttarakhand Kedarnath floods, talk about Kathmandu earthquakes, come to forest fires. These are definitely not about geomorphological causes. The forest fires, again human aspects, Uttarakhand slopes. So that's question number B. Then question number C, controlling population growth is a sustainable solution to environmental problems. Express your views with suitable arguments. The moment a question is framed as express your views, this actually is a comment type of a question where you are supposed to justify what you think, and you may or may not agree with this question or with this phrase. The phrase is that whatever problems we have related to population growth, okay, is what is responsible for issues of environment. So if we solve the problems of growth, we probably will end up solving the problems of environment. Now, you can start the question with, there is a Malthusian interpretation of why we have problems. And Malthus says, yes, our numbers, our growth, our unfettered expansion in our numbers responsible for food problems. And the Malthusian concept has been expanded under the neo-Malthusian thinking. You can relate this with limits to growth. You can talk about water shortages. You can talk about food shortages. You can talk about urban crowding, okay, pollution, the whole idea of Earth's carrying capacity. Talk about the concepts of optimum population, where if you have population beyond some threshold number, the ecosystems are all strained. So for one part the answer, you say agreed that yes, if we control population growth, we will end up solving our problems. The examples taken from problems of contemporary society, which is food security and so on. But a very important part of the answer should also have been that population growth is not the main issue. The problems of environment are also related to our attitudes towards environment. They're related to our lifestyles. They're related to our conflicts. Lot of problems that we have are because of the geopolitical conflicts, like say conflicts and the way we are using our oceans and the pollution of the oceans. We have problems of attitude where we see environment to be subservient and to be conquered, the typical Occidental view, and how that makes us believe that man is supposed to use environment in whatever way we can have. And the problems of environment because of our lifestyles, which is energy intensive lifestyles. So even if we have small population numbers, but our lifestyles are not right, we'll end up still having problems of environmental issues. Don't forget, the lot of environmental problems are because of inequalities. So this will be the Marxist view of understanding environmental problems. So the answer is two parts. The first part, agree with the answer and give it some theoretical base. The second part, which I think is a critical one because this is where you stand out with respect to other answers. Don't agree and say that population size is not always the important only concern environmental issues. So the third question I can discuss is section B. Discuss the degree of importance of transportation costs as a factor of industrial location with respect to footloose industries. So a question is asking you, how important is transportation when we are discussing the localization of footloose industries? That's question number 5B. Localization of footloose industries and the role of transportation. 10-mark question. Start the answer with the Weber's assertion that transport costs play an important role, and the whole idea of the location triangle. But then Weber's model applies to industries which are raw material based, and the raw materials are fixed. They have to be processed and then sold in the market. But the moment I talk about footloose industries, that could be your second paragraph. The first paragraph I said, a quick introduction from the Weberian law. The second paragraph, you need to explain what is a footloose industry. A footloose industry is that industry that is not bounded by local raw material, that is not using the local resources, and hence it can be set up anywhere. That's the idea of footloose, which includes industries which are based on assembling of components, industries which are based on integrating diverse parts that are imported from different places, which are mostly the consumer goods or fast moving consumer goods, FMCG products. So in these kind of, and footloose would also include certain type of skill based industries where the labor can also quickly move and get employed. Think of software sector, but then I'll be a bit wary because when I use the word industry, I'm not talking about services. So you can mention services like software, but that is not the best one to discuss. So that's about food industries. Now discussion is that such industries do not require the consideration of transportation because you are not dealing with raw materials which need to be transported. So by that logic, yes, agreed, the transportation cost is not the most important factor. But ultimately, have a discussion on transportation still is important if we are looking at warehousing, inventorization. Transportation still important if we're looking at mobility of the labor. Transportation still important if we're looking at integration of an economic region. Think of footloose industries along the freight corridors, footloose industries along major shipping routes. So to dismiss the idea that transportation is not an important factor, we'll be taking one very narrow view of the issues. So bulk of the answer, you agree. Give example for FMCG sectors, automobiles, electronics, mobile industries, assembling industries, but don't disagree entirely on that it is not as important. The next question I'm taking up is, discuss the causes of degradation of tropical rainforests and suggest remedial measures for the prevention, conservation and development. This question actually has two important aspects. One is, this is an applied one because you have to give examples, and this also is one of those lengthy questions that I discussed in one of the previous videos, where you must discuss the causes of degradation and what are the remedial measures for preventing it and conserving and developing it, all within 15 marks. And to discuss this, you need examples, or instances without which you will not be able to argue your point credibly. The causes of deforestation should be one part, and ideally I'll suggest for this question, let it not be more than 1/3 of the answer. So 15-mark question, I do not see more than 2 pages for this answer. So 1/3, just about more than half of the first page, could be your causes. And suggest the causes should be discussed through schematics. And again pick up the most important cause, discuss the more important geographically linked cause rather than all the causes at one go. Like causes can include shifting agriculture, cause can include sea level rise impacting forest, causes include expansion of urbanization and development projects, causes also include forest fires, we have overgrazing. Causes include industrial expansion. Causes also include poverty. Why? Because if there are communities which are dependent on forest products like firewood for their survival, they will end up cutting the forests. A very important aspect of cause is also the government policies. So when you elaborate the answer, I'll suggest do not write too much on shifting agriculture. Don't elaborate too much on forest fire. Don't elaborate too much, just mention a diagram overgrazing. Your discussion element is government policies, where there's alienation of communities, where local population probably are no longer part of a program to conserve forest. Your discussions can be related or to sea level rise. And while discussing these or even inequalities and poverty, these are important discussion reasons. And while doing this, give examples. Take up examples of mangrove submergence and the destruction related to tsunamis that we had in Tamil Nadu. Government policies, you can talk about the present policy itself, where there is not much of participation by the local population across the hill regions, and talk about firewood, a very important issue across India, where tropical monsoon forests are some of the most degraded ones. You can talk about industrial smuggling of timber, red sanders, sandalwood, and how that causes. Take up global issues, deforestation because of development, Brazil, Congo forest. You can talk about, Brazil, Amazon forest, Congo forest. So pick up 2, 3 of them with examples, elaborate, but make sure you don't overdo this. The bulk of the answer also requires you discuss on what are the prevention and the management and development. Essentially, we're looking at solutions here. Solutions, keep it contemporary, not in general afforestation. Not in general, discourage cutting down of trees. Keep it specific, like what has been a thinking under Paris deal. Forests and RED plus. Forest management under India's forest policy, 1988. What is the approach under joint forest management? What's the approach under the biosphere reserve concept? So rather than listing down just the terms of afforestation, you discuss it through 2 or 3 important programs which have been run. And then tell us how Paris deal talks about emission offset. RED talks about emission offset compensatory forestries. How joint forest management includes local participation, take it towards watershed development maybe. So if you do this, your answer seems complete, and more importantly, you can present the fact that you understand the issues in the contemporary relevance better. This sums up my discussion of paper 1, where through a couple of videos I've explained how you could have managed the different type of questions that have been asked. You can look forward to the next set of videos where we will discuss paper 2 Indian geography questions and what you could have done to answer and get the best out of the paper. Thank you.